My name is Olivia, and I am 21 years old. If you met me a year ago, you would have said I was one of those girls who seemed to have it all figured out. I had friends, I had a future, and I had a heart that believed too easily in the good in people. I was the one who stayed up all night helping classmates finish their essays, the one who always said yes when someone needed a ride, a favor, a secret kept. I thought kindness would protect me. I thought love meant safety. I thought friendship meant loyalty. I was wrong. It all started quietly, like a shadow stretching across the floor at sunset, slow, unnoticed, but inevitable. Sophie was my best friend. We met on the first day of university, both lost in the maze of hallways, and we found each other like puzzle pieces. She was everything I wasn't, bold where I was careful, loud where I was soft. She made the world seem exciting, dangerous, alive. We shared clothes, secrets, dreams. I trusted her with my whole heart. And then there was Josh. He was 2 years older, a senior when I was still finding my place. He made me feel like I belonged, like I mattered. His hands were always warm, his voice always steady, and when he said he loved me, I believed him without question. The first sign that something was wrong came in the form of whispers. Someone said I stole money from the student fund. I laughed. Me? I was the one who balanced every receipt to the last cent. I showed Sophie the emails, the proof, expecting her to laugh with me, to roll her eyes at the absurdity of it. But she didn't. Her smile was tight. Her eyes searched my face like she was looking for something she didn't want to find. "I mean, you wouldn't write?" she asked. Just that, not "I know you didn't." Just a seed planted deep. Josh was no better. He didn't ask me what happened. He just said, "People talk, live, maybe keep a low profile for a while." A week later, the photos appeared. They weren't real, I know that. But when they spread across every group chat, every email thread, they looked real enough. My face, my hair, my body, twisted, edited, stained by things I never did. I went to the dean, trembling, furious. He looked at me like I was already guilty. "We can't have this kind of scandal, Olivia. Until this is resolved, consider your scholarship suspended." I ran to Sophie's apartment, tears in my throat. She hugged me, cried with me, whispered that she believed me. But when her phone buzzed on the table, I saw the message before she could turn it over. "She's cracking. Keep pushing." Josh's name, Josh's words. My heart stopped. My breath turned to glass in my chest. I confronted him that night. He didn't deny it. He smiled. "You were too perfect, Liv. People like you always need to be reminded that you're not untouchable." I left. I packed one bag, deleted my social media, turned off my phone. They said I dropped out, that I was too ashamed to face what I had done. They told everyone I was unstable, obsessive, dangerous. But I wasn't gone. For 31 days, I became a ghost. I watched, I listened, I learned. I hacked Sophie's email, Josh's cloud storage. I found everything. The fake receipts they forged, the photos they edited, the messages where they laughed about how easy it was to break me. And worse, Sophie was drowning in debt, blackmailing a professor for grades, hiding a positive pregnancy test in her drawer. Josh had a folder full of fake photos of other girls. I wasn't the first, just the one who loved him enough to be blind. I stayed in a cheap motel outside town, where the walls smelled of mold and the nights were long and cold. I wrote everything down, every date, every lie, every weakness. I let the anger grow, but not wild, sharp, controlled. The night I came back, the city was slick with rain. I cut my hair short, dyed it a shade colder. My reflection in the taxi window looked like a stranger, and I liked her more than the girl I used to be. The party was loud. Laughter spilled into the street. I could hear Sophie's voice before I even opened the door, shrill and drunk. I stepped inside, and for a moment, time stopped. Heads turned. Conversations froze. Sophie's wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. Josh stared, his smirk breaking like glass under pressure. "Miss me?" I asked, my voice calm, almost sweet. No one spoke. I smiled. For the first time in months, I felt alive. I didn't come back for forgiveness. I came back for answers, and for something much colder than that. The night after the party, I couldn't sleep. My room smelled like rain and cigarette smoke, the kind that seeps into your clothes and stays there. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of their faces when they saw me. That moment, their fear, their confusion, it wasn't enough. Not yet. I knew I couldn't just confront them. People like Sophie and Josh, they thrive on turning the story in their favor. If I went to the dean, he'd call me bitter, unstable, maybe even dangerous. If I exposed the photos, they'd say I faked everything out of revenge. No, I needed something cleaner. I needed them to destroy each other. Sophie was always the easiest piece to move. She thrived on attention, on approval. The night I returned, I saw her with Daniel, the new photography major with too much cologne and not enough sense. Sophie had a habit. When she wanted to feel powerful, she collected people like him. I remembered the pregnancy test in her drawer. If that came out, her perfect mask would crack in front of everyone. I sent her a message the next morning. Anonymous, from a number I bought online. I know your secret. Meet me at the library, 3rd floor, tonight at 9, or everyone else will know it too. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. She came, of course. Sophie always came when she felt the ground shaking. I watched her pace between the dusty shelves, her heels clicking too loudly. Her hair was perfect, her lipstick smudged from chewing her lip. "Hello," she whispered. I stepped out from behind the stacks. Her eyes widened, her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Relax," I said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you, not yet." She clutched her purse like a shield. "Olivia, we thought you left. Why didn't you?" "Because I wasn't done," I cut in. I could see her calculating. Sophie was always quick with her lies, but her hands betrayed her. They trembled. "I didn't do anything," she started. I tilted my head. "Didn't you? Or did you just follow along while Josh pulled the strings?" Her silence told me enough. "I know about the pregnancy," I said. Her breath hitched. "What do you want?" I smiled. "Nothing, yet just be careful who you trust. Not everyone wants you to stay standing." I left her there, shaking, her perfect world already tilting. Josh was harder. He was careful now after what happened. He didn't show his cards easily. But I had something he didn't know I had, his folder. The one with the photos, the fake ones, the real ones, the names. Some of those girls had already left school. Some were still there, walking the halls with forced smiles, thinking they were alone. I sent one of them a message. Emily Clark, sophomore, quiet, always sitting at the back of the lecture hall. "Do you want to know who ruined your life?" She replied in less than 5 minutes. "Who is this?" I told her to meet me in the old campus cafe, the one that closed down 2 years ago but still smelled like burnt coffee and dust. She came with her hood up, her hands stuffed in her sleeves. When I showed her the photos, her face went pale. He said it was just a prank, that nobody would see it. "Everyone saw it," I said. She looked at me, eyes wide. "What are you going to do?" "Not me," I whispered. "Us." That was the beginning. By the end of that week, there were 4 of us. 4 girls with stories like mine, each one a thread Josh had pulled until it snapped. We met in secret, exchanged everything we knew. Sophie's debts, Josh's blackmail, the professor he worked with. But I didn't tell them everything. Not yet. I needed them to trust me, to follow me, but this wasn't about forgiveness. This was about precision. One night, I walked past Sophie's apartment and saw her arguing with Daniel on the balcony. Her voice was sharp, his hands flying in the air. I recorded it from across the street. It wasn't enough to destroy her, but it was a start. Josh, meanwhile, was slipping. Rumors started to spread. Not mine, not yet, but whispers I planted carefully. That he was cheating, that he was being investigated, that someone had seen his laptop with files that didn't belong to him. He called me 3 days later. "Liv, we need to talk." I almost laughed. "We need to talk." The same words he used before he destroyed me. "Where?" I asked. "Blue Moon Cafe, tomorrow, noon." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I let him sweat. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the look in his eyes at the party. It wasn't guilt. It was something darker. Fear mixed with fascination. Josh loved control, and I had taken that from him. Now he wanted it back. I stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My hair was still damp from the rain, my eyes darker than I remembered. I whispered to my own reflection, "You wanted a monster, Josh. You built one." The next day, I went to the cafe. He was already there, leaning back, pretending to be casual. "You look different," he said. "I am different." He leaned forward. "Whatever this is, whatever you think you're doing, stop. You'll only make it worse for yourself." I smiled. "Worse than last time." His jaw tightened. "You think you can scare me?" "I don't want to scare you," I said. "I want you to remember." I left before he could answer. Outside, Emily was waiting in the alley, her hood pulled low. "Did he take the bait?" she asked. "He doesn't even know there's a hook," I replied. The plan was only beginning. I wasn't the same Olivia they broke. I wasn't the girl who cried herself to sleep, who begged for someone to believe her. I was something sharper now, something they couldn't predict. And if they thought the party was my grand return, they hadn't seen anything yet. I didn't sleep that night. Or maybe I did in fragments like broken glass in my dreams. I woke to a storm raging outside, thunder shaking the windows. The world felt like it mirrored my head, dark, loud, and electric. The first light of morning filtered through the blinds, sharp and pale. I wrapped myself in silence, but my mind buzzed. Sophie's world was unraveling. Josh was sweating, weaving lies. The others, I needed them to rise up, to demand what they deserved. And yet, something deeper pulsed under the surface, a need I hadn't faced until now. I walked into the bathroom, stared at myself in the mirror. The girl in the reflection was colder now. Her eyes, hard, vigilant. My fingers trembled as I traced a scar on my wrist. A souvenir from nights I spent crying, begging for justice. But the tears were gone. All that remained was purpose. I pulled out my phone, logged into a burner email, typed. "Something is wrong with your therapy notes. Someone is sharing them." I sent it to Sophie, who had been pretending to be fine, acting composed. I watched the 3 dots appear below the message as she typed and deleted 3 times before finally sending. "Who is this, Olivia? Stop playing." I let it sit there. She paced. She sent a reply. "I don't know what you want." But she couldn't look away. She read it again. Fear, confusion, satisfaction, tiny but there. That afternoon, I picked up food for my group of 4, the girls in my corner now. We met in the abandoned film studio behind campus. Dusty chairs, boarded-up windows, and the smell of decay. Perfect cover. Megan, the quiet one whose voice broke when she told us what Josh made her say. Laura, whose reputation was shredded by rumors Sophie planted. And Emily, with the haunted look and a phone full of screenshots. They sat in a ragged circle. When I walked in with coffee, they looked at me like I was hope. No platitudes, no apologies, just, "Here, what I found," I said, handing them flash drives. Their eyes widened as they loaded the files. Bank statements of Sophie, emails of Josh, voicemail confessions buried under code. Each one trembled as they realized how deep the betrayal went. I let the silence stretch until Megan whispered, "We can't show this. It'll destroy them." "Exactly," I said, sitting where Sophie's cracked vanity mirror used to stand. "But we can make them destroy each other." I held up a USB titled Sophie's Choice. "We leak bits, one secret at a time." I watched them squirm, but they nodded. We had power now. That night I drank too much wine. It burned my throat, uncooled. I lay on the floor of my apartment, listening to the storm lullaby outside. My phone buzzed. A tweet went live from Anonymous. "My best friend slept with the professor for grades. Guess who?" Replies burrowed through my phone. A retweet. A screenshot. Sophie's eyes widened on her phone, her face ghost white. She types frantically, deletes, types again. "Who is this?" I smiled, but the grin was empty. I knew the damage had started. The next morning, I saw Josh's face plastered on group chats. Josh Harrison accused of revenge porn, extortion. He was panicked. I watched him hovering at the dean's office, pale as a sheet. The rumor chain fed on itself. People whispered. Some cheered, some recoiled, but all eyes were on him. And all of them were waiting for Olivia to make the next move. But I didn't move. Because control isn't a race, it's a dance. By midday, Sophie confronted me in the hallway, her voice brittle. "You want me to crumble, Liv." I paused, breathing steady. I want you to remember what betrayal feels like. She swiped her card to get into a class, denied. The computer flashed. Hold on your account is suspended. I watched her stumble back. Panic spiraled in her eyes, and yet she was calculating how to fight it. That was good. Meanwhile, Emily texted, "He wants to meet, he's pleading." I didn't respond at once. I waited till night. At 11:59, I wrote, "Don't meet him, let him beg, let him break." I went to bed. For the first time in years, I slept, dreamless. I woke to a message from Josh. "Let's talk, off the record." I typed back, "The table is yours when you come." I headed to the old theater on campus, the one with the cracked balconies and rusted seats. I found my seat in the front row. I lit a candle. The place smelled of dust and forgotten applause. He came trembling, pale, in a suit borrowed from someone else's closet. He looked small. He bowed, lost. "I'm sorry," he said. He meant it, I think. Fear made him honest. I watched him break. One raw, open confession. "I was scared of you, you." He trailed off, couldn't finish. I nodded, and now? He looked at me, tears threatening. "Now I'm dying." I stood, walked down the aisle, every step measured, controlled. I stopped inches from his face. "You wanted me to be the broken girl," I said, "but I'm better when I'm broken." He let out a sob, and that was enough. I walked away, out into the sunrise. Rain had washed the night clean. For a moment, it felt like I might cry, but the tears were gone. I am not broken. I am nothing they expected. I am the storm they created, but never learned to fear. The night air was thick with fog, curling around the streetlights like smoke from a distant fire. I walked alone, feeling the pulse of the city, the whispers of every secret I held in my mind. Sophie and Josh didn't know where I was. They didn't know what I planned next. And that gave me power, a kind of delicious, heavy weight that pressed down on my chest and made every step forward feel like a victory before it even happened. I thought about the emails, the leaked messages, the photos I had carefully sent out. They had begun to spread, gnawing at the edges of everyone's perception. But spreading chaos wasn't enough. Chaos was temporary. I wanted permanent fractures, fractures that would never heal. Sophie was the first target for tonight. I had been watching her for weeks, noting her patterns, her friends, who she texted when she was scared, who she leaned on when the pressure got unbearable. She never expected me to be precise, surgical, patient. That was my advantage. I sent her an anonymous text. "You thought the worst was over. You were wrong." I waited. Minutes stretched into an hour. Her reply came finally. "Who is this? Stop harassing me." Perfect, fear, laced with confusion. Exactly what I wanted. I followed her from a distance, keeping to the shadows. She crossed the campus quad, unaware that I knew everything, every lie, every manipulation she had ever executed. Every step she took was a step into a trap of her own making. Inside her apartment, I watched her carefully. The blinds were cracked, but the lights inside were dim. Sophie was on the phone, trembling, her voice barely audible. "I don't understand how it's happening. Please, I can fix this, I can." She didn't know. I could see her through the reflection in the glass. I tapped into her smart devices quietly, a skill I had honed in these weeks of preparation. Cameras, microphones, alarms. She would never know I had control over every corner of her apartment. I left subtle messages, unsettling, hinting at secrets she thought were buried. Her pulse raced. Her breath came in short bursts. Every small noise in the apartment felt like a threat. Meanwhile, Josh was unraveling elsewhere. I had planted rumors in the right circles, manipulated social media posts, and nudged key students to ask questions. His allies were slowly disappearing, suspiciously busy, distracted, or suddenly out of town. Josh started to feel the walls closing in. I could almost hear the panic in his mind like a faint drumbeat. I met Emily and Megan later that night in our safe house, a deserted warehouse with cracked windows and cold cement floors. They were anxious, but their excitement was palpable. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," Emily whispered. "You can," I said, my voice steady. "This is bigger than fear. This is precision. Remember why we started." Megan nodded, but I could see the tremor in her hands. Fear, yes, but also thrill. Power had a way of corrupting slowly, intoxicatingly. I laid out the next stage. Sophie would believe she was safe, but I had already prepared the bait. A fake email from a professor she had blackmailed, a text from a friend she had lied to, all timed perfectly to collapse over her in sequence. Josh would see it happen, but he would think it was random. The beauty of chaos orchestrated was its invisibility. I left the warehouse at 2 a.m. Rain-slicked streets glimmered under the orange glow of street lamps. My reflection in puddles was fractured, distorted, but I recognized the sharpness in my eyes. I whispered to myself, "They built me. Now I'm dismantling them." The next day was theater. Sophie's email exploded. Her friends turned away. Rumors spread faster than wildfire. She called Josh in hysteria. "It's her, it's Olivia, she's doing this." Josh's response? Panic, confusion, desperation. He thought he could manipulate, threaten, bargain. Every call he made, every person he reached for help fed into my plan. Every attempt to stop the collapse accelerated it. By evening, Sophie was cornered, packing her apartment, checking windows, whispering into the phone with anyone who might protect her. Josh tried to intervene. "Olivia, stop. You don't have to do this." I was outside her apartment, hidden, listening. His words, pleading, begging, full of guilt and terror, didn't reach me. I had moved beyond fear. I had moved beyond revenge. I was something sharper now, something that could slice cleanly through everything they had built. I left a package at her door, a USB, labeled, "Your truths." I walked away into the night, rain soaking through my jacket, heart pounding. The storm mirrored what I felt inside, chaos, clarity, and the thrill of the hunt. Minutes later, Sophie opened it. I could hear her screaming through the phone line she accidentally left open. Every secret, every manipulation, every lie laid bare. Josh heard it too, helpless, witnessing the world crumble around him in slow, deliberate agony. I let it continue. Every shiver of fear, every heartbeat of panic was fuel. I didn't call. I didn't intervene. I only watched. By the time the night ended, Sophie was in tears, begging. Josh was hollow, gasping for control he would never regain. And me? I felt nothing but the cold, steady satisfaction of inevitability. I was no longer Olivia, the betrayed girl. I was Olivia, the orchestrator. Every move calculated, every emotion measured. And the final act that was still to come. The storm faded, leaving wet streets and distant sirens. I stood on the corner, looking at the fractured reflections in the puddles. I whispered, "This is just the beginning." The air was electric. I could feel it humming in my bones as I walked into the theater one last time. Every corner, every shadow was mapped in my mind. The stage wasn't for performance, it was for reckoning. Tonight, everyone would see the end of the story, but none of them would see it coming the way I had planned. Sophie had been trembling since the last leak. I could see it in her texts, her frantic attempts to scrub the evidence, the tiny cracks in her veneer. Josh. He was a hollow man now, eyes darting, hands shaking, always one step behind, always guessing, always failing. But tonight, I would not just destroy them. I would expose them in front of everyone who had ever doubted me, ever mocked me, ever laughed at my pain. I set everything in motion. Emails, texts, social media posts, all carefully timed to explode at once. Sophie's friends received files that revealed her lies, her manipulations, her darkest secrets. Josh's former conquests received images, messages, proof of the cruel games he had played. Every thread, every person, every lie came together in a single symphony of chaos. I sat in the balcony, hidden. I could hear the gasps, the whispers, the frantic shuffling of feet below. Sophie's face turned pale as the first files hit her inbox. She tried to call someone, anyone, for help, but every line led back to her own betrayal. Her perfect world was gone. She was isolated, exposed, and finally truly afraid. Josh stumbled forward, trying to contain the damage, but it was too late. Every contact he thought he controlled was now free, witnessing everything. People whispered. Some laughed. Some recoiled. But all eyes were on him, all judgment falling like rain. And then I made my move, the final act. I had prepared a message, anonymous but unmistakable. "You thought you could destroy me. You were wrong. Now watch as the world you built collapses. It appeared everywhere at once. Screens, phones, laptops, emails. The panic was instantaneous. Sophie screamed, tearing at her hair. Josh tried to flee, but the doors were locked, timed to close at the peak of chaos. Every escape route blocked. Every ally vanished. I stepped into the light. They looked at me, fear and recognition colliding in their eyes. "Olivia," Sophie whispered, voice breaking. I smiled, cold and precise. "Do you remember who you are, Sophie? The person who laughed at me, who betrayed me, who made me disappear." She shook, but no words came. "You will," I said, and then I revealed everything. Every lie she had ever told, every betrayal, every manipulation laid bare on screens around the theater. She crumbled under the weight of her own guilt and the world's judgment. Josh lunged at me, desperate, trying to intimidate, to bargain, to plead. But the moment he touched me, his phone buzzed. A live feed of his secrets, his manipulations, his fake files playing across hundreds of screens simultaneously. Every girl he had hurt, every lie he had spun, was now public. He froze, his hands fell, his knees buckled, and the people around him whispered, laughed, recorded, and shared. His empire of deceit collapsed in real time. I walked through the chaos calmly, deliberately. Emily and Megan were at my side, silent but powerful. The people who had been silenced by Sophie and Josh now witnessed their reckoning. I didn't have to lift a finger. My preparation had done it all. Sophie crawled to her knees, tears streaming. "Please, Olivia, You had your chance," I said, "and you wasted it." Josh tried to speak, but his voice was weak, broken. Every lie he had told, every manipulation, every cruel game had turned back on him. He looked at me with a mix of hatred and awe, realizing too late that he had underestimated me entirely. I turned to leave. The theater echoed with screams, whispers, and the soft hum of cameras capturing every moment. I stepped out into the night, rain washing the stage clean, feeling the weight of months of planning finally lift. But satisfaction wasn't simple. It was sharp, precise, and intoxicating. As I walked away, I left them with one final message: never forget me. And I knew they wouldn't. Sophie and Josh, their world shattered, had learned the ultimate lesson. Betray Olivia, and she will not just return. She will dismantle everything you love, everything you trust, everything you are. I disappeared into the city lights, my reflection fragmented in every wet street, but my purpose whole. I had claimed justice on my own terms. I had become more than the girl they broke. I had become the reckoning. The storm raged on, but I felt nothing. Calm, control, power, and somewhere deep inside a faint smile of satisfaction. I am Olivia. I am the storm they created, and now I am unstoppable.